Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time we're going to really dive deep into the Mongols,
Yeah.
specifically their empire.
Yeah, their empire.
And, we always think of empires as these big, fettled civilizations, but the Mongols were like nomads.
Yeah.
They did it from horseback.
Yeah, it really challenges the way that we think about how empires work and function.
Totally.
It's like trying to understand a fish.
Yep.
By studying a bird, you know?
Totally. So before we get into like the battles and Genghis Khan and all that,
Right.
I want to kind of paint a picture of like who were these people? How did they live?
Yeah.
What was everyday life like for them?
So first off, I think it's really important to remember that when we say Mongols, it's not like a homogenous group.
Right.
It was really a very diverse collection
Okay.
of tribes and clans
Gotcha.
that were connected by their language and by, they lived a nomadic lifestyle in the Central Asian steppes.
So that environment must have been a huge part in shaping them. Yeah.
Imagine just this endless grassland,
Wow.
stretching all the way to the horizon.
Yeah.
Scorching summers, brutal winters, and very, very limited agriculture.
Okay.
So there were pastoralists.
Okay.
They raised horses, sheep, goats, and cattle.
Yeah.
And so their lives really revolved around their animals
Yeah.
and finding good grazing land.
So their whole society was basically on the move.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, and this constant movement really had a profound impact on their social structure, too.
Okay.
They were organized into clans and tribes, but, alliances could be very fluid,
Right.
shifting depending on, what resources were available.
Yeah.
And the constant threat of conflict over these resources.
That sounds like a tough way to live.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see how that breeds a very strong warrior culture.
Oh, absolutely. The steppes were a crucible.
Yeah.
They forged a people who are just incredibly resilient,
Yeah.
skilled horsemen,
Of course.
and deadly archers.
Right.
And those skills, it's no coincidence, those skills were really the backbone of their military successes later on.
Of course, yeah.
But it's also important to remember that this conflict wasn't just between different Mongol groups.
Right.
They also faced threats from, the settled societies on their borders.
Right. So they had to constantly be ready to fight.
Exactly. And that just further fueled this warrior ethos.
Okay, so this is where Genghis Khan comes in, right? He's the one that kind of unites all these warring tribes.
Well, he does,
Yeah.
but his story is anything but straightforward.
Okay.
He was born Temujin sometime around 1162
Okay.
into a world of, shifting allegiances and just brutal power struggles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his early life was marked by, hardship and tragedy.
Yeah.
His father was poisoned by a rival tribe.
Oh, no.
His family was abandoned.
Oh, wow.
He even spent some time as a captive.
That's a rough childhood.
Talk about a rough childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so these experiences, they really shaped him into the shrewd strategist and charismatic leader that he became.
Oh, wow.
He understood the importance of loyalty,
Okay.
and he was ruthless
Yeah.
in dealing with betrayal.
Right.
So he gradually builds up this power base.
Okay.
He starts making alliances through marriage, through strategic partnerships.
Yeah.
One really crucial one was his friendship with this warrior named Boburtchu
Okay.
from another tribe. And he even rekindled an old alliance with this powerful Kuriat tribe.
Okay, so he's playing the game very well, it sounds like.
Oh, he's a brilliant politician.
Yeah.
Not just a warrior.
Right, but I imagine these alliances weren't always easy to maintain.
You're right. Power dynamics were constantly in flux.
Yeah.
Ambitions were clashing.
Right.
And eventually, Temujin's growing power, it brings him into conflict with the leader of the Kuriats,
Okay.
a guy named Togrul,
Okay.
also known as On Khan,
Okay.
and even his blood brother,
Oh, wow.
Jamuka.
So like real betrayal. Real betrayal.
Real Game of Thrones stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So this leads to a series of battles and betrayals. It's like a real-life Game of Thrones playing out on the steppes.
Okay, so this is where things start to get really interesting.
Yeah.
How does he go from just another, ambitious chieftain to becoming Genghis Khan, the Great Khan?
Well, it was a long and bloody climb to the top.
Yeah.
He defeats his rivals one by one,
Wow.
demonstrating both strategic brilliance and ruthlessness.
Okay.
He incorporates defeated warriors into his own army,
Smart.
rewarding loyalty, punishing treachery.
Yeah.
He also understood the importance of uniting the Mongols under a common banner.
So it was more than just military might. He was also trying to create a nation.
Absolutely. And in 1206, after years of struggle, he achieved this goal
Wow.
at a grand assembly called a Quiltai.
A what?
A Qiltai, which is basically a gathering of Mongol leaders.
Oh, okay.
He's proclaimed Genghis Khan,
Wow.
which means Great Khan of the Mongols.
So like ruler of all Mongols.
Pretty much universal ruler.
That's a pretty big turning point.
Yeah, it really marked the birth of the Mongol Empire.
Wow.
But Genghis Khan's ambitions didn't end there.
Of course not.
He believed he had a divine mandate to rule the entire world.
The whole world.
The whole world. And now that he had the Mongols unified under his command,
Right.
he was ready to make that vision a reality.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so, Genghis Khan was more than just a fierce warrior.
Okay.
His real genius was in how he took the existing strengths of the Mongols, like their horsemanship, their archery skills,
Yeah.
and he turned it into this highly disciplined, incredibly effective fighting force.
So not just like a horde of, crazy barbarians.
Exactly. He combined those skills with a deep understanding of the terrain,
Okay.
an ability to endure really extreme conditions.
Right, they're used to that.
Exactly. And he was also a master of logistics.
Okay.
Making sure that his armies had the supplies they needed to operate far from home.
Logistics is so important.
It's crucial.
Especially back then, yeah.
Yeah. He understood to conquer these vast territories, he needed more than just brute force.
Right.
He even incorporated siege warfare techniques.
Oh, wow.
Which were traditionally a weakness for nomadic armies.
Yeah, because they're always on the move.
Exactly, but he was willing to adapt and learn from his enemies.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he synthesized all these different elements into this really successful military strategy.
Exactly.
But I can't forget about the Mongols' reputation for ruthlessness.
Oh, yeah.
There was a psychological aspect to their warfare, too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Their reputation really preceded them.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan, he understood the power of fear.
Right.
Cities that surrendered without resistance,
Yeah.
they were often spared.
Okay.
But those that fought back
Yeah.
faced brutal consequences.
Oh, wow.
And it was a calculated strategy.
Okay.
The stories of their ruthlessness spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
And that often led other cities to surrender before the Mongols even got there.
It's very effective.
Very effective.
And also terrifying.
Yeah.
Do we have any, specific examples of this in action?
Yeah, so take the capture of Bukhara in 1220.
Okay.
The city surrendered after a short siege.
Okay.
But a group of Turkish defenders, they
Yeah.
held out in the citadel.
Okay.
And when they were finally defeated, Genghis Khan had the survivors brought before him.
Oh, no.
And he basically gave this speech
Okay.
telling them that they were being punished by God for their sins.
Oh, wow.
And that he was God's instrument of punishment.
I bet they were scared.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
can you imagine
Yeah.
being on the receiving end of that?
Yeah, so where did Genghis Khan go first with this incredible army?
Well, China was a prime target.
Okay.
It was a very wealthy and powerful empire.
Right.
But at the time, it was divided into 3 separate realms.
Okay.
And Genghis Khan saw an opportunity there.
Divide and conquer.
Exactly.
Classic.
Classic strategy. He first targeted this Tangut state in northwest China called Dajixia,
Okay.
defeated them by 1209.
Okay.
And then, in a move that shocked the world, his armies breached the Great Wall of China in 1213.
Oh, wow.
And by 1215, they'd captured the Jin dynasty capital Zhonggu, which is modern-day Beijing.
Wow, that is quick.
It was a stunning demonstration of their capabilities.
But conquering all of China was a long process, right?
It was a multi-decade campaign.
Yeah.
But the speed at which they captured major cities and defeated large armies was unprecedented.
So they were really efficient.
Incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
And it's also important to remember that Genghis Khan wasn't personally leading every battle.
Oh, okay.
As the empire expanded, he delegated authority
Okay.
to his sons and his trusted generals.
Right.
Like a guy named Subutai,
Subutai.
who was this brilliant strategist
Okay.
who really played a key role in many Mongol victories.
So he wasn't just a military leader, he was also a really good manager.
Exactly. He was building this command structure
Yeah.
that was capable of managing this vast and growing empire.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, and he wasn't content just to stay in China.
Oh, no.
He turned his attention westward toward the Islamic world.
Okay.
And in 1218, he sent envoys to the Khwarezmian Empire.
The what?
The Khwarezmian Empire,
Okay.
which was ruled by Sultan Muhammad.
Okay.
And he was seeking trade and diplomatic relations.
Okay, sounds good.
But things went very, very wrong.
Oh.
When the Sultan had the envoys executed,
Oh, that's bad.
it was a grave insult.
Yeah.
And Genghis Khan saw it as a declaration of war.
Yeah, that's a bad move.
Not a good move.
So what happened?
Well, Genghis Khan unleashed the full fury of the Mongol army
Oh,
on the
no.
Khwarezmian
Oh,
Empire,
wow.
cities like Otrar, Bukhara, Samarkand,
Okay.
all these major centers of Islamic learning and culture, they
Wow.
fell one by one.
Wow.
Cities that resisted, like Urgens, were utterly destroyed.
This is brutal.
It was brutal.
What happened to the Sultan?
Well, he fled,
Okay.
but the Mongols pursued him relentlessly.
Oh, wow.
Across Persia,
Okay.
into Central Asia,
Okay.
Genghis Khan sent his generals Jibei and Subutai
Okay.
on a reconnaissance mission,
Okay.
which turned into this devastating raid.
Oh, wow.
Across the Caucasus Mountains, they clashed with Russian forces,
Wow.
pushed as far west as Crimea.
Meanwhile.
Meanwhile, Genghis Khan chased the Sultan's son, Jalal ad-Din Minburnu,
Okay.
into Afghanistan,
Okay.
reaching the Indus River in what is now Pakistan.
Wow, that's incredible. So, in just a few decades, the Mongol Empire stretched from China to the Indus River.
Yeah,
It's mind-boggling.
it's a testament to their military prowess and Genghis Khan's brilliance as a strategist.
Totally. But even the greatest conqueror can't live forever.
That's true.
In 1227, Genghis Khan died.
Yeah.
That must have been a huge turning point for the empire.
It was the beginning of a new chapter.
Yeah.
But the empire didn't fall apart.
Okay.
In fact, it continued to expand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but Genghis Khan's death, it really marked the beginning of a new era,
Okay.
filled with both challenges and triumphs.
So Genghis Khan dies, and he leaves behind this huge empire, right? This massive empire all across Eurasia.
Yeah.
What happens next? Did it just fall apart without him?
Well, no, not at all. Actually, the Mongol Empire, it kept expanding under his successors.
Oh, wow.
In fact, between 1236 and 1242, they made like their most dramatic westward advances.
Really?
Yeah, they conquered a lot of territories in the Russian steppes.
Wow.
They even pushed as far as like Poland and Hungary.
Hold on. The Mongols almost conquered Europe.
Almost.
That's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
What stopped them?
Well, a few things happened.
Okay.
One of the big ones was that Ogadai died.
Ogadai?
Yeah, Genghis Khan's successor, the Great Khan.
Okay.
He died in 1241.
Okay.
And when that happened, all the Mongol commanders in Europe, they had to go back east
Oh, wow.
to elect a new leader
Okay.
at the Kurultai.
So their own political system, like, stopped them from conquering Europe.
In a way, yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
The Mongol Empire, as big and powerful as it was,
Yeah.
it wasn't immune to, like, internal struggles.
Right, of course.
Genghis Khan, he divided his empire into 4 ulas.
For what?
Ulas, these regions,
Oh,
basically
very
each ruled by one of his sons.
Okay, smart.
Yeah, and after he died, these ulas, they became like centers of power.
Right.
And rivalries started popping up between different branches of the family.
So it sounds like that was kind of built into the system.
It kind of was, yeah.
Did those power struggles eventually lead to the empire falling apart?
Well, they definitely contributed to it.
Okay.
It eventually fragmented,
Yeah.
the descendants of Jochi.
Jochi.
Yeah, he ruled the western territories, like the Golden Horde.
Right.
And Obadai's descendants, they were like the most powerful at first.
Okay.
But over time, the descendants of Tului,
Tului.
yeah, Genghis Khan's youngest son,
Okay.
they started gaining more power.
Okay.
And his son, Mongke, he became the Great Khan in 1251.
Okay.
And he kind of shifted the focus
Okay, to what?
towards consolidating Mongol control in China
Okay.
and pushing further into Persia.
Oh, so kind of a different direction.
Yeah, a little bit.
Did that cause tension?
It did. There were some rebellions and challenges to the Great Khan's authority.
Of course.
But you got to remember, the Mongols, they were pretty pragmatic.
Okay.
They understood that stability was good for trade and prosperity.
Right, so they had to find a balance.
Exactly. Even during these conflicts, they tried to keep communication open
Okay.
and cooperate between the different ULAs.
That makes sense. So how did Genghis Khan even manage to build this giant empire in the first place? I know he was a great military leader, but what about the administrative side of things?
That's a great question, and it's a really crucial part of the story.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan, he was a brilliant military leader, but he was also a really shrewd administrator.
Okay.
He knew he couldn't rely just on traditional tribal loyalties
Right.
to govern such a huge and diverse empire.
So he needed something more centralized?
Exactly. He implemented some, like, groundbreaking reforms.
Like what?
Well, for example, he restructured the Mongol army.
Okay. How?
He got rid of the old clan and tribal divisions.
Oh, wow.
So now soldiers were organized based on, like, merit
Okay.
and their loyalty to him.
Okay, so not to their tribe anymore.
Exactly. This created more unity and helped prevent the army from, like, splintering along those old tribal lines.
So it's like a new social order within the army.
Yeah, basically.
Any other big changes?
Well, he introduced this decimal system of organization.
Okay.
So he divided the armies into units of tens, hundreds, thousands,
Okay.
all the way up to 10,000.
So a very organized system.
Super organized. It made the army incredibly efficient
Okay.
and really responsive to commands.
Right.
He also established this sophisticated courier system
Okay.
using relay stations and fresh mounts.
Oh, wow.
It allowed for really fast communication across the empire.
So they could send messages super quickly.
Yeah, messages could travel from one end of the empire to the other in like a matter of days.
That's incredible. Like the Pony Express, but way bigger.
Exactly, but, we can't forget about the Mongols' reputation for brutality.
Right.
Their conquests, they were often really destructive.
Yeah, so how do we square that with this idea of the Pax Mongolica, this period of peace and prosperity?
Yeah, it's a complex issue. There are a
Yeah.
lot of different interpretations.
Okay.
On the one hand, the Mongols were pragmatic.
Okay.
They knew that stability and security were good for trade.
Right.
So they actively worked to protect trade routes like the Silk Road.
Right. The Silk Road was huge.
Huge. It flourished under their rule.
Yeah.
It brought enormous wealth and facilitated all this cultural exchange across Eurasia.
So the Mongols actually connected East and West.
Like never before. Yeah.
Wow.
It led to this unprecedented flow of goods, ideas, and people.
So it sounds like promoting trade and stability was in their own best interest.
Exactly. They wanted to maintain control and enjoy the economic benefits of a stable empire.
Right. That makes sense.
And as the Mongols settled into their role as rulers,
Yeah.
they started adapting to the realities of governing these diverse populations.
Okay.
They incorporated local administrators into their government.
So they weren't just like kicking everyone out and putting their own people in.
No, they were more practical than that. They even adopted aspects of the cultures they conquered,
Like what?
like administrative techniques from the Chinese and Persian bureaucracies.
So they were actually pretty flexible.
Yeah, they were pragmatists at heart.
Okay.
Like take Ghazan Khan, for example.
Who's that?
He was the Mongol ruler of Persia.
Okay.
He converted to Islam in 1295.
Oh, wow.
And he actively promoted agriculture and infrastructure
Okay.
because he recognized that a prosperous population meant a stable tax base.
That's smart.
Yeah, he even chastised his Mongol commanders for plundering the peasantry.
Really?
Yeah, he said it was like killing the goose that lays the golden egg.
That's a pretty enlightened perspective for a Mongol ruler.
It is, yeah.
So how should we think about Genghis Khan and the Mongol Empire today?
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
It's a really complex legacy.
Yeah.
On one hand, Genghis Khan was this brilliant military strategist,
Yeah.
unified the Mongols, built one of the largest empires in history.
Right.
But on the other hand, he was responsible for a lot of destruction and loss of life.
Right.
The Mongol Empire, it was a period of unprecedented brutality,
Yeah.
but also remarkable cultural exchange and interconnectedness.
So it's not a simple story.
Not at all.
We have to look beyond these simple ideas of good versus evil
Exactly.
and understand the nuances of history.
Yeah, it's about understanding the complexities of the past
Yeah.
and acknowledging both the positive and negative aspects of their legacy.
The good and the bad.
Yeah, the Mongols, they were products of their time and their environment
Right.
and their story. It's a reminder that history is rarely black and white.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray.
A lot of gray.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great place to wrap things up, I think.
Yeah.
The Mongols were this incredible force.
They were.
They reshaped the world.
Yeah.
And their story really challenges our assumptions about empire's power and how civilizations are connected.
It really does.
And I think it leaves us with more questions than answers.
Probably.
But that's what makes history so interesting.
It is. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Mongol Empire.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep exploring.